friends. Thanks for joining us. Today we are talking about movies. Well, not talking, we're whispering about movies because ASMR, finger stuff. So today I wanted to talk about Quentin Tarantino, which is, so if you like movies at all, you have an opinion about Quentin Tarantino and his films. And if you are a brand new film student, he's probably your favorite director. And if you're an old school cinephile, you probably have an irrational hatred for him because all the new film school kids say that Quentin Tarantino is their favorite director. And he's very polarizing with his films. But we're gonna rank his films. And to put it, I am pro Tarantino. He's not my favorite director, but he is a very good director. If you had to ask me who my favorite director is, I don't know. Kevin Smith, maybe. At least his old stuff. I don't know. And maybe Kevin Smith was the guy who made me want to make movies and talk about movies. So I get there's a special place in the heart. So he's gonna be my favorite, even though his recent movies aren't super to my liking. Although Red State was pretty good. See, he's got those in him, and I want to see more of those. But that's not here nor there. We are talking about Quentin Tarantino, and we're gonna rank his movies, and I'm gonna talk about him, I'm gonna ramble about him, I'm gonna whisper about him. I'm gonna get excited about him. So we're gonna rank them, and let's recap them real quick. So we got Django Unchained, Inglourious Basterds, The Hateful Eight, Pulp Fiction, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Reservoir Dogs, Jackie Brown, Death Proof, Kill Bill 1 and 2. And if you want to argue that Four Rooms is also a Tarantino film because he directed one of the segments of it, we can include that too. But then we have to review just his segment, which is, I don't know, that might be the weakest one, but it is very Tarantino-esque without being Tarantino-esque. It's weird. It's like, it feels like it wants to be a Tarantino. So we'll make that an honorable mention, and we'll say the last segment in Four Rooms. If you haven't seen Four Rooms, it's a pretty good film. It's Tim Robbins is a bellhop at a decrepit, formerly famous Hollywood hotel, and he's the only person working on New Year's Eve. And there are four rooms, which are four segments that are each written and directed by different directors of basically nightmare guests. So the first room is like a bunch of witches. The second room is he goes into the wrong room and gets involved in a sort of role play scenario, which is a little insane. It's like a hostage situation / husband-wife role play. Real weird. And then the third, he becomes a babysitter for Antonio Banderas and two of the most misbehaved kids. And that's the best one. It goes fantastically off the rails, and it's amazing. And then the fourth segment is Quentin Tarantino's, and it's good. It's a good ending. It's a good period on the film. So there's my thoughts on Four Rooms. Pretty good. Worth watching. Go watch it. I think it's on Netflix. Anyway, let's get down to the actual full Tarantino auteur films. Tarantino as an auteur. Because he also wrote Natural Born Killers, which is also a really good film. And he also wrote, is it True Romance? I think he wrote that one. But Natural Born Killers, Oliver Stone did that one, I think. That's also a good film, but it's also very 90s. It's very stylistic. Worth watching though. Pretty good stuff. If you don't know that one, that's a love story about two serial killers who go on a murderous rampage, and sort of the cult of personality around serial killers, like the morbid fascination. Robert Downey Jr. is in it, Juliette Lewis is in it, and I can't think of his name. It's not Matthew McConaughey, it's the other guy. You think about Matthew McConaughey, but like older. That guy. What's his name? Very famous actor. He'd probably punch me if he heard me say that. Woody Harrelson. Is that right? I think that's right. Yeah, I'm going with it. Anyway, we're 5 minutes in. We haven't started ranking any of these movies. So, with last place, I'm going Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's made 10 films. That sounds right. So 10th place, by far, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's not a bad movie. It's just not a good movie. It's got all the elements you need for a good movie. It's just very... I don't know what the right word is. It needs somebody who's not Tarantino to go and take a hatchet to it, because it's about an hour, at least an hour too long. And that's also my complaint with the next film on the list. But it's like, it's got good bits, it's got redeeming qualities, it builds to a big fantastic end, it's got some nice moments, but it's about an hour too long, because that film is... What's the runtime on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? I watched that movie in the theaters. I don't know, that gives you nothing. 2 hours and 40 minutes. Yeah, it's about an hour too long. I think most movies should be 2 hours or less. That's, most movies should be 90 minutes or less, if we're being honest. Especially comedies. Comedy filmmakers. Take note of what some whispering weird guy on the internet thinks about movies. So that's number 10. I think that's everybody's number 10. But Quentin says that's his favorite movie of his. And I don't know if that's just because it's the most recent one he's worked on, and I think that's probably the case. But I don't know. Maybe he just wants to make those movies, which... The next one on the list is gonna be The Hateful Eight. And again, that movie is just too long. They both have this problem where, like, there's a really good climax, but they're just slowly ratcheting the tension, and attention spans snap before you get to the big payoff. And so, like, the payoff is awesome. Like, the end of Hateful Eight is great, and there's, like, some big plot twists, and, like, for what is essentially a bottle episode, yeah, and then maybe I would feel different if I saw that one in theaters at the 70mm with the huge widescreen projection, and see all the effort they put into these, like, big, gorgeous, beautiful shots they shot, but, like, didn't translate when I watched it, And so, again, somebody who's not Tarantino be like, okay, well, people are going to be watching this on their cell phone. Is it going to hold up? And the answer is no. So, like, cut out all those lingering shots. I had that same problem with Blade Runner 2049. It was just like, it felt like that they were like, hey, Roger, would you shoot this shot and make it 30 seconds long, even though it's an atmospheric shot that adds nothing to the story. Like, if it adds, like, I get having that love of the atmospheric and that love of immersion, but, like, put some story, put some exposition in those beauty shots, because otherwise it's just eye candy for the sake of, it's masturbatory, for lack of a better term. So that's what I'm going for number 9, Hateful Eight. Next on the list. What is next on the list? I'm gonna say Jackie Brown. No, I'm gonna say Death Proof. Death Proof, again, now I think from this point on, I would say all of these films are great. So it's like, it's gonna be kind of harder and harder to decide. Death Proof, it's a good film, but it's, I don't know what, I think there was like, it felt like it was a short film. It felt like it should have been a short film. It was too long. But it wasn't, I guess it was the pacing. It wasn't too long. It was just the pacing. It just kind of drug out a little bit. It was he achieved what he was going for, but it's not for me. Does that make sense? Like, it's not a bad film. I get the appeal. It's just not for me. So for that, it's gonna be number 8. Put that on number 8. Boom. Next, Jackie Brown. Obviously. That's kind of like the play on blaxploitation films, I guess. is what maybe they were going for a little bit to some degree. Maybe not. I don't know. Blaxploitation films or much more. But Jackie Brown's, it's a good film. There's good. I think the problem I had with Jackie Brown, and it's not so much a problem as just like why I didn't love it more, was I felt like the stakes were kind of low. Like there's a lot of movies out there where like the stakes are serious, like they did life-altering stakes, but like for some reason I'm just not invested in that, and it just wasn't. It just didn't keep my attention as well. It's getting harder now. It's starting to get hard. I would say next up, Kill Bill Volume 2. For maybe partially similar. I think the problem I have with Kill Bill 2 is that Kill Bill 1 was so kind of action-packed, and that originally the movies were supposed to be watched together as one big movie, and I think it would have played better if they had done that. But it's like they took all the action and put it in Kill Bill 1, and they took all the exposition and put it in Kill Bill 2. And it's like, Kill Bill 1 was pretty good, it's a lot of action. And there's some mystery, and you're like, what's gonna happen? And then Kill Bill 2, it's like, answers. It's just, I think, yeah, that's gonna be number 6 for me, is Kill Bill 2. Okay, let's get to the top 5 now. I hope I completed the thought. I had to take a break there for a second. Does you hate when that happens? You have to take a break in the middle of filming a video. Anyway, number 5, we're going with Reservoir Dogs. I think it's a great movie. It's got good acting. It's got good flashbacks. Ooh, excuse me. This Tarantino's first proper film. So I think, obviously you can see where he's heading with the style. It's just not all the way there yet. But that opening scene in the diner, where Steve Buscemi's, they're talking about the Madonna song, they're talking about tipping, like, that's some good, that's the kind of stuff that if I had been there when that movie came out, I could see, I'd be like, this guy's going places. So that's getting number 5 for me. And obviously it's got, I think that's when I talk about Tarantino films being too long and they're kind of ratcheting up to one big kind of explosion at the end, one big climax. Reservoir Dogs does it right. It's not nearly as long as the other films, or at least it doesn't feel as long. How long is Reservoir Dogs? Let's try to find it here on the list. Reservoir Dogs. Say it with a British accent. Hour and 39 minutes. Boom. That's, if you think about The Hateful Eight, it's all in a cabin. If you think about Reservoir Dogs, it's mostly in that warehouse. They're not the same movie, but like there's parallels, and Reservoir Dogs just does it better. I don't know what to tell you. Now it's getting real hard. Top 4. I'm going with number 4. Kill Bill Volume 1. I think for a while that might have been one of my favorite films of all time, especially when I was just getting into film. But now, I think when I think about how Kill Bill 1 and 2 together would have been a better movie, I think I have to knock Kill Bill 1 down a couple pegs, because even though I've got like a fan cut that puts both movies together, I don't know if that's how Tarantino would have structured it. And I think if you had getting some of the exposition into Kill Bill 1, I think it could have been a stronger movie. And if you had stuck both movies together, and depending on how might be the number one movie, but as it is today, it's fantastic. I love that film. I love Uma Thurman. I love the hyper violence. It's insane. It just reminds me of a theory I read that Tarantino has two types of films. He has films that are, it's an alternate reality where movies are very violent, and then he has movies that are movies in that alternate reality. So like Kill Bill is a movie in the alternate reality. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Jackie Brown are like the alternate reality. And like Inglourious Bastards is like not necessarily a film in the alternate reality, but like it's the history of the alternate reality. Like there's a lot of, it's a theory. It's really interesting. Go look into it. I don't know where I read that. Reddit maybe. But moving on to number 3, I think I'm gonna give that one a Pulp Fiction because that is just. You know what? No, I take that back. I'm going Django Unchained for number 3. Now, I don't know. Because Christoph Waltz, Jamie Foxx, and Leonardo DiCaprio just chef's kiss in Django. But Pulp Fiction has more, I don't know, it doesn't, it's like in my head it has more staying power just because it's older. And it was like one of the first, like, films I watched, and you're like, whoa, this is what movies could be. I didn't know, because I was a stupid 12-year-old, I might have been 13, I don't know. Yeah, Pulp Fiction 3, Django number 2, which leaves Inglourious Bastards number 1. That's my rating. So, recapping, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, number 10. Hateful Eight, number 9. Death Proof, number 8. Jackie Brown, number 7. Kill Bill Volume 2, number 6. Reservoir Dogs, number 5. Kill Bill Volume 1, number 4. Pulp Fiction, number 3. Django Unchained, number 2. Inglourious Bastards, number 1. I love Inglourious Bastards. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's just so good, and it's that. For me, that's peak Tarantino. That and Django and Pulp Fiction, those 3 are just unbeatable because they do it. What they do so well is that every sequence has a ratcheting tension and then it has like a climax. So you have, in Django, you have like these separate sections that all kind of climax and they all pop off. And in Inglourious Bastards, every single sequence is just poof, 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 roller coaster. Pulp Fiction's the same way. You have these interstitial stories that are, poof, poof, I don't think interstitial is the wrong word, but you still have roller coasters. And it does it so much better than all these other films. That the rest of his films, Kill Bill does it too. That's why it's number 4. So I guess, case in point. But then the other 5, 6, they don't do that. They just, Kill Bill 6 kind of does it. Or Kill Bill 2 kind of does it. But, it's just not as good as Kill Bill 1. There we go. That's my picks for Tarantino films ranked. Hope you got something out of that, or it's just something to turn on and turn your brain off for a little bit while I ramble at you. As always, thank you for watching. Who do you want me to rank next? What movies do you want me to review? More movies? I'm gonna. So get used to it. Yeah. That was the worst sign-off call to action ever. Subscribe if